The reinforced transport container shook violently as something inside threw itself against the walls for the 15th time in an hour. Dr. Raymond Cole watched the readings on his datapad and allowed himself a small smile. Everything was going exactly as expected. Around him, the cargo bay of the orbital station Galloway 9 buzzed with activity. Handlers from a dozen different worlds moved strange and terrifying creatures into holding cells. Each species had brought their planet's most dangerous animal to showcase in the Galactic Predator exhibition, an event that drew millions of viewers from across known space. The Harani had transported a phase-shifting ambush killer that could disappear and reappear at will. The Drell arrived with pack hunters whose blood could melt through metal. The Torgal delegation wheeled in an armored beast the size of a small building. Raymond had brought a honey badger from the Kalahari Desert. "This is your submission?" The voice came from above, sharp and dismissive. Raymond looked up at exhibition coordinator Lassa, whose crystalline body refracted light in patterns that other species found beautiful. Right now, those patterns suggested contempt. "This small creature is what Earth considers dangerous?" "This is Brutus," Raymond said calmly. "And yes, this is our entry." Lassa descended on a gravity platform, her multiple arms gesturing at the container. Through the reinforced glass, Brutus could be seen tearing apart his bedding with focused determination. He was perhaps 3 feet long, stocky and low to the ground with coarse gray and black fur. Compared to the nightmares being unloaded around them, he looked almost pathetic. "The creature is tiny," Lassa said. She pulled up the specification sheet on her own device. 15 kilograms. No venom, no natural armor. No size advantage. "Dr. Cole, I must ask you to reconsider. Every civilization that participates in this exhibition puts forth their finest example of evolutionary lethality. Earth's reputation in the galactic community is already uncertain. Do you truly wish to present this as your world's contribution?" Before Raymond could answer, a loud crash echoed through the bay. Brutus had somehow managed to tip his entire container onto its side. Handlers rushed over, but Raymond waved them back. "Leave him. He will settle down eventually." "Will he?" Lassa's tone dripped with sarcasm. "Dr. Cole, I have overseen 12 of these exhibitions. I have seen predators that hunt in dimensions humans cannot perceive. I have witnessed creatures that can survive in hard vacuum. Just last cycle, the Fenner brought a species that liquefies its prey from the inside." She gestured at Brutus, who was now biting the container's locking mechanism. "This is a pest, not a predator. With respect, Coordinator, you asked for Earth's most interesting predator. I believe Brutus will exceed expectations. Interesting is not the same as impressive." Lassa turned to leave, then paused. "I am giving you 1 rotation to reconsider. Earth maintains a small military contingent on this station. Surely they have access to more suitable candidates. Large cats, perhaps? Your orcas? Even your bears would be preferable to this embarrassment." After Lassa left, Raymond felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to see Diana Ross, the pilot who had transported him and Brutus from Earth. Her expression was worried. "Ray, maybe she has a point. I know you are brilliant, but this is being broadcast to half the galaxy. If Brutus just sits there or runs away, Earth looks weak. Diana, how long have we known each other? 8 years. And in that time, have I ever done something without a reason?" Diana considered this. "No. But you have also never brought a honey badger to a galactic event before. There is a first time for everything, including mistakes." Raymond looked back at Brutus, who had now started working on the container's hinges with single-minded focus. "Do you know why I chose a honey badger? Not because they are the biggest. Not because they are the strongest. I chose Brutus because honey badgers have something most creatures in this galaxy have never encountered." "What is that?" "The complete inability to accept that they might lose." A technician approached nervously. He was human, part of the station's support crew. "Dr. Cole, we have tried 3 different sedative protocols on your specimen. None of them are working. He should be unconscious by now, but he seems more active than when we started. What dosage did you use?" "Triple the recommended amount for his body mass." "Sir, is there something wrong with his biology?" Raymond shook his head. "No, his biology is working perfectly. Honey badgers have extremely efficient livers. They can process toxins that would kill most creatures. Snake venom barely slows them down. Your sedatives are just another chemical his system is neutralizing." The technician paled. "We need to move him to a holding cell in 3 hours. How do we transport him safely?" "Very carefully." As if to emphasize the point, Brutus finally broke through the locking mechanism. The container door swung open. For a moment, everyone in the cargo bay froze. The honey badger emerged, looked around at the dozens of species staring at him, and made a sound somewhere between a growl and a chitter that clearly communicated his opinion of everyone present. Then he spotted a crate of equipment and immediately began climbing it. Handlers swarmed in with nets and containment poles. Brutus treated each attempted capture as a personal insult, twisting away from nets and biting through poles made of composite materials. It took 6 handlers, 2 emergency shields, and 1 brief power outage before they managed to guide him into a holding cell with reinforced walls. Diana watched the chaos with wide eyes. Ray, that creature just bit through a containment pole rated for 50 kilograms of force. Honey badgers have incredibly strong jaws for their size, and thick skin, and high pain tolerance, and no sense of danger whatsoever. That last part is not a survival advantage, Raymond smiled. On Earth, it absolutely is. Brutus evolved in an environment with lions, leopards, hyenas, and some of the deadliest snakes in existence. His species survived by being too tough to kill and too aggressive to discourage. In the distance, they heard Lassa's voice over the station intercom, addressing the gathered delegations. She described each entry with elaborate praise. When she reached Earth's submission, her tone changed dramatically. And finally, we have a late entry from the humans. A small omnivore they have classified as a mustelid, mass 15 kilograms, threat level minimal, expected performance poor. There was a pause, then her voice dripped with barely concealed amusement. The humans call this creature a honey badger. We call it a waste of an exhibition slot. Laughter echoed through the communication system. Raymond heard it and felt Diana tense beside him. Ray, everyone is laughing at us. Let them laugh, Raymond said quietly. He pulled up footage on his datapad showing a wild honey badger fighting off 3 lions, shrugging off bee stings, and ripping apart a reinforced enclosure. Tomorrow during the assessment they will understand. The galaxy is about to learn an important lesson. What lesson? That Earth does not measure danger by size. In his cell, Brutus had already begun testing the walls for weaknesses, completely unconcerned by the mockery happening around him. He had work to do, and nothing was going to stop him from doing it. Sunlight poured through the massive dome that crowned the exhibition arena, artificial but perfectly calibrated to match the spectrum of a dozen different homeworlds. Below the observation decks, the arena floor stretched out in a flat expanse of neutral gray, designed to be reconfigured for any environment a coordinator might need. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the seating areas, their excited chatter creating a sound like rushing water. Instructor Oren stood in the control booth, reviewing the assessment protocols one final time. He was a Ven, tall and thin with 4 arms that moved independently as he worked multiple control panels at once. Behind him, Raymond waited patiently, while Diana recorded everything on her personal device. The process is straightforward, Oren said without looking back. We release your creature into the arena. Observation drones track its behavior. Then we introduce combat simulations to test response patterns. The entire assessment takes approximately 2 hours. What are you testing for specifically? Raymond asked. Hunting efficiency, pack coordination, threat assessment, strategic thinking, pain tolerance. Oren finally turned around, his large eyes reflecting doubt. Dr. Cole, I must be honest with you. Most of these tests are designed for creatures significantly larger than your entry. The smallest predator we have assessed in the past 5 exhibitions was 40 kilograms. Your honey badger is less than half that size. Brutus will manage, will he? Oren pulled up footage from earlier exhibitions. This is the Harani phase predator. It scored perfectly on stealth attacks and prey acquisition. This is the drill pack. They demonstrated flawless coordination across 7 individuals. And this is the Torgal siege beast. It destroyed every combat drone we deployed. He closed the displays. What can your creature possibly do that will compare? Raymond met his gaze steadily. You will see soon enough. A medical officer entered the booth, moving on 6 legs with a nervous gait. Trev was a Holosi, a species known for their cautious nature and exceptional medical knowledge. He carried a datapad filled with scans and readouts. Instructor Oren, I have completed the biological baseline for the human specimen. Trev's voice carried concern. The results are unusual. Unusual how? The creature possesses a pain tolerance threshold far above what its size would suggest. Its skin is remarkably thick and resistant to puncture. Most concerning, its metabolic system processes toxins at a rate I have only seen in species 3 times its mass. Trev looked at Raymond. Dr. Cole, has your creature been chemically enhanced? No, that is just how honey badgers are built. That is inefficient, Trev said flatly.
Why would evolution produce such extreme defensive traits in a creature too small to threaten larger predators?
Because on Earth, being small does not mean being safe. Brutus's ancestors had to defend their food from lions. They raided beehives despite thousands of stings. They survived bites from cobras that could kill an elephant. Trev's multiple eyes widened. Your planet allowed such a creature to survive? This suggests extremely high environmental pressure. Earth has a lot of pressure, Diana said from her position by the window. It is kind of our thing. Below in the arena, Coordinator Lassa's voice boomed over the speaker system, addressing the crowd. Honored guests, we now present the final entry in this cycle's exhibition. From the human homeworld of Earth, I give you their submission. She paused for dramatic effect, and Raymond could hear the amusement in her tone. A creature they call a honey badger, weighing only 15 kilograms. Classification, omnivore. Threat assessment, negligible. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Raymond saw beings from sophisticated civilizations pointing at the screen showing Brutus in his holding cell. To them, he looked like a large rat or perhaps somebody's unusual pet. The humans insist this creature represents their world's predatory capability. Lassa continued. We shall see if their confidence is justified, or if this is simply another example of their species' tendency toward overestimation. More laughter. Diana's jaw tightened, but Raymond remained calm. Oren began entering commands into his console. I am required by protocol to have you sign damage waivers before we proceed. These are standard forms indicating you accept responsibility for any injuries your creature might sustain during assessment. Raymond signed them without reading. Oren blinked in surprise. You did not review the terms. I trust Brutus to take care of himself. Dr. Cole, some of the combat drones carry non-lethal but painful deterrents. Electric shocks, sonic pulses, compressed air bursts. These are designed to test threat response in creatures that mass over 100 kilograms. For something as small as your badger, they could cause serious harm. Brutus has survived worse. Trev made a nervous sound. I have medical teams standing by, but I must warn you that our protocols are not optimized for Earth biology. If your creature is seriously injured, we may not be able to help. I appreciate the concern, Raymond said. But Brutus is tougher than he looks. In the holding area beneath the arena, handlers reported their struggles over the communication channel. Subject has escaped primary containment twice. He bit through handler gloves rated for chemical resistance. We cannot sedate him. Request permission to use heavy restraints for transport to release point. Oren looked at Raymond, who nodded approval. Proceed with restraints. 5 minutes later, the handlers reported again. Subject has chewed through 2 restraint straps. We are now using metal cables. This creature is extremely determined. Diana laughed despite her nervousness. That is Brutus. He does not quit. The arena floor opened and a platform rose carrying a reinforced transport box. Through the viewing screens, the crowd could see the box shaking as something inside moved around. Oren opened the release mechanism remotely. The box door swung open. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Brutus emerged, moving with a confident waddle that looked almost comical. He paused, looking around the massive arena, then up at the observation decks filled with thousands of watching aliens. He made a chittering sound that the audio systems picked up and amplified throughout the dome. To Raymond, it sounded like Brutus was announcing his presence. To everyone else, it probably sounded like a small animal making noise. Beginning assessment protocol, Oren announced. Activating observation drones. 6 sleek drones descended from the ceiling, hovering around Brutus at different heights. They were elegant machines, equipped with sensors and recording devices. Their programming told them to maintain distance while tracking the subject's movement patterns. Brutus looked at the nearest drone. The drone looked back with its camera eye. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then Brutus charged. What is he doing? Oren's hands flew across his controls as the drone automatically tried to evade. But Brutus was faster than expected. He leaped, caught the drone's lower surface with his claws, and immediately began tearing at its sensor array. This is not normal behavior, Oren said, his voice rising. Subjects are supposed to be cautious of the drones. They are supposed to avoid them or show defensive posturing. Brutus does not really do defensive. Raymond said quietly. The drone tried to shake Brutus off by ascending rapidly and spinning. Brutus held on. His claws found purchase in the drone's hull, and his teeth found something important because suddenly sparks flew, and the drone began listing to one side. He is destroying a 50,000 credit observation unit, or an increased power to the other drones, bringing them closer to assist. This turned out to be a mistake. Brutus dropped from the damaged drone, landed on his feet without apparent injury, and immediately went after the next closest machine. This time he was even faster, as if he had learned from the first attempt. Abort observation phase, Oren commanded. Activate evasion pattern. The drone scattered, moving in random directions to confuse predators. Most creatures would lose interest or become disoriented by this tactic. Brutus simply picked one drone and pursued it with absolute focus. When it flew higher, he climbed the arena wall. When it tried to use speed, he anticipated its path and was waiting when it circled back. In the observation decks, the laughter had stopped. Beings leaned forward in their seats, watching this small creature refuse to behave the way nature should dictate. Diana was grinning now. Ray, everyone is staring. Good, Raymond said. That means they are starting to understand. Oren deployed 2 more drones, thinking numbers would overwhelm the Badger. Instead, Brutus fought 3 drones at once, switching targets seemingly at random but always landing damaging hits. His thick hide protected him from the minor defensive measures the observation drones carried. When one drone hit him with a small electric charge, he paused for less than 2 seconds before resuming his attack, with what looked like increased anger. This is impossible, Oren whispered. He should be retreating. Every instinct should be telling him to find cover. Honey badgers do not have that instinct, Raymond explained. They have a different one. They have the instinct that says anything bothering them needs to be destroyed immediately. Brutus successfully disabled his 4th drone. It crashed to the arena floor in a shower of sparks. He stood on top of it and made that chittering sound again, louder this time. In the observation booth of the exhibition coordinators, Lassa stared at the screens in disbelief. This was not going according to plan at all. The arena floor was littered with broken drone parts, sparking electronics casting strange shadows across the gray surface. Brutus sat among the wreckage, methodically destroying what remained of an observation unit that had stopped working 5 minutes ago. He bit through its power core casing, just to make sure it stayed dead. Instructor Oren's 4 arms moved frantically across his control panels, pulling up diagnostics and damage reports. His calm demeanor had cracked somewhere around the 3rd destroyed drone. Now he looked like someone whose entire understanding of predator behavior had been thrown into a waste processor. This should not be possible, he said for the 7th time. We designed these drones to withstand assessment from creatures massing 200 kilograms. Your Badger weighs 15. Never underestimate something just because it is small, Raymond said. He was taking notes on his data pad, completely unsurprised by everything happening below. Diana pressed her face closer to the observation window. Ray, Brutus just bit through a power cable. Those things are reinforced. Honey badgers have a bite force of around 400 psi. That is stronger than a dog twice their size. Trev, the medical officer, was reviewing his scans with increasing confusion. Dr. Cole, I have been monitoring your creature throughout this assessment. He has taken multiple impacts. One drone struck him with a force that should have broken bones. He paused for 8 seconds, then continued attacking. His pain response is minimal. That is normal for honey badgers. They have thick skin and fat deposits that absorb impacts, and their nervous system does not prioritize pain the way most species do. That is a terrible survival strategy, Trev protested. Pain exists to warn organisms about damage. On Earth, stopping to worry about pain means something else kills you while you are distracted. Brutus's ancestors learned it was better to ignore the pain and keep fighting. In the arena, Brutus had finished with the drone remains and was now exploring the space, moving along the walls as if looking for an exit. He seemed completely unconcerned that thousands of beings were watching him. Oren took a deep breath, trying to regain his professional composure. We need to continue the assessment. I am activating Phase 2 protocols. These are deterrent response tests. He looked at Raymond. The drones will emit sounds, lights, and chemical irritants designed to drive away predators. This is standard procedure to measure threat recognition. Brutus is going to hate that. Hate is not relevant. This tests whether a predator can recognize danger and respond appropriately. 3 new drones descended into the arena, larger than the observation models and equipped with actual defensive systems. They spread out in a triangular formation around Brutus, maintaining distance. The honey badger noticed them immediately and stopped his wall exploration. "Beginning deterrent protocol Alpha," Oren announced. "Sonic warning." The drones emitted a high-pitched sound that made several species in the observation decks cover their ears. It was designed to be universally unpleasant, triggering flight responses in nearly all tested fauna. In the arena, Brutus flattened his ears against his head, clearly annoyed by the noise. Then he charged the nearest drone. "No, no, no," Oren said, increasing the sonic output. "This should be driving him away." Brutus reached the drone and began climbing it despite the painful sound. His claws found grip points and he pulled himself up to where the sonic emitter was located. Then he bit into it. The sound cut off abruptly as the device shattered. "Deterrent protocol Beta," Oren said quickly, his voice strained. Bright light strobes. The other 2 drones began flashing with intense white light, the kind that could temporarily blind most creatures. Brutus squinted but did not stop. He dropped from the first drone and moved toward the others, his path direct and purposeful, despite the strobing that should have been disorienting. "This is not working," Diana observed. "He is getting angrier." "Honey badgers interpret deterrence as threats," Raymond explained, "and their response to threats is always the same: attack." Oren deployed chemical irritants from the remaining drones, spraying compounds that included capsaicin and synthetic pheromones that triggered fear in most predators. Brutus walked directly through the spray, shook himself once, and continued his approach. "He should be in pain," Trev said, checking his readings. "Those chemicals cause severe burning sensations in mucous membranes. Even armored creatures avoid them. Honey badgers regularly raid beehives," Raymond said. "They get stung hundreds of times and keep eating honey. Some capsaicin spray is not going to stop Brutus." The honey badger reached the second drone and destroyed it with efficient brutality. When the third tried to retreat, he pursued it across the entire arena floor, refusing to let it escape. The drone was faster, but Brutus was relentless. Eventually, the machine's evasion protocols failed, and Brutus brought it down near one of the arena walls. In the observation decks, the crowd had gone completely silent. Beings who had been laughing earlier now watched with a mixture of fascination and concern. Several were taking notes. Others were having urgent conversations with their delegations. Oren stared at his controls like they had betrayed him. Every deterrent failed, every single one. This has never happened before. "Perhaps you need stronger deterrents," came a voice from behind them. Everyone turned to see Coordinator Lassa entering the control booth. Her crystalline body was rigid with anger. "Instructor Oren, this assessment is becoming an embarrassment. Deploy combat drones." "Coordinator, that violates protocol. Combat drones are only used in the final exhibition rounds, and only against apex predators that have passed all other tests. I am authorizing emergency use. This creature is making a mockery of our assessment procedures. We will test him against actual combat capability and prove he is nothing special." Raymond stepped forward. "Coordinator Lassa, I must protest. Combat drones are designed to fight creatures 3 or 4 times Brutus's size. This is dangerous and unnecessary." "Dangerous?" Lassa's laugh was cold. "Your pet has destroyed 8 assessment drones. He has shown no fear of any stimulus. If he is truly as capable as you claim, Dr. Cole, then he should have no trouble with a proper challenge." She turned to Oren. "Deploy 1 combat drone. Light weapons only. Let us see if this badger is brave or simply too stupid to recognize real danger." "This is against regulations," Oren protested weakly. "I am the exhibition coordinator. I make the regulations." Diana grabbed Raymond's arm. "Ray, those combat drones have shock weapons. They have impact charges. Brutus could get seriously hurt." "I know." Raymond's jaw was tight. "This is not about assessment anymore. This is about Lassa trying to save face." In the arena, Brutus had climbed onto the remains of the third drone and was looking up at the observation decks as if he knew something else was coming. His body language showed no fear, only readiness. A panel in the arena ceiling opened. A combat drone descended, twice the size of the observation models, with visible weapon mounts and heavy armor plating. It was painted with warning stripes that indicated its purpose. This machine was designed to fight back. The crowd's murmur grew louder. This was unprecedented. Combat drones were never used in standard assessments. Several delegation leaders were standing, shouting protests that went unheard. Oren's hands hesitated over his controls. Coordinator, I must formally log my objection to this action. Your objection is noted. Deploy the drone. The combat drone activated its systems, sensors locking onto Brutus. The honey badger watched it descend, his small eyes tracking every movement. When the drone reached combat height, about 3 meters, off the ground it oriented its weapons toward the target. Combat drone active, Oren said quietly. May the ancients forgive me. Raymond pressed his hands against the observation window. Come on, Brutus, show them what Earth makes. The combat drone fired a warning shot, a low-power energy burst that hit the ground near Brutus. It was meant to establish dominance to make the target retreat. Instead, Brutus responded by charging directly at the drone, using a piece of wreckage as a ramp to leap higher than should have been possible for a creature his size. He caught the drone's lower armor plate with his claws and held on as it tried to shake him off. The machine ascended rapidly, spinning and diving in patterns designed to dislodge attacking predators. Brutus did not let go. His grip was absolute, his determination unshakable. The drone activated its shock weapon, sending electrical current through its hull. Most creatures would release immediately to escape the pain. Brutus's body stiffened, his fur stood on end, and for a moment Raymond thought he might fall. Instead, the honey badger adjusted his grip and began climbing toward the drone's main, body moving through the shock as if it was merely annoying rather than debilitating. His teeth found the shock weapon's power coupling and bit down hard. The weapon exploded in a shower of sparks. The combat drone began an emergency descent, its systems compromised. Brutus rode it all the way to the arena floor and continued his attack even after the machine crashed and went still. The observation decks erupted. Some species cheered. Others sat in stunned silence. A few delegation leaders were demanding explanations, their voices carrying over the communication systems. Lassa stared at the arena floor where a 15-kilogram badger stood on top of a destroyed combat drone, making that defiant chittering sound that was starting to sound like a war cry. "What have you brought here?" she whispered. Raymond smiled. "I brought a honey badger, just like I said I would." Emergency alarms blared through the control booth as damage reports flooded Oren's screens. The combat drone was a total loss, its systems shredded by teeth and claws that should not have been able to penetrate military-grade armor. In the arena below, Brutus had moved on from the wreckage and was investigating a water dispenser built into the wall, completely unconcerned about the chaos he had created. Coordinator Lassa stood frozen, her crystalline form refracting the warning lights into harsh patterns across the booth walls. Her confidence had shattered along with her preconceptions about Earth's fauna. But instead of accepting defeat gracefully, Raymond could see her pride twisting into something dangerous. "This proves nothing," she said, her voice sharp. The combat drone was set to minimum power. Any competent predator could have defeated it under those conditions. "That is not true," Oren protested. "The drone was operating at standard assessment levels. I have the logs right here." "Then clearly our standards need adjustment." Lassa turned to face Raymond directly. "Dr. Cole, you have made your point. Your creature is more resilient than expected. However, resilience against machines proves nothing about actual predatory capability. True predators face other living creatures, not drones programmed to pull their strikes." Raymond felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. "What are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting we conduct a proper assessment. We have several live specimens in holding from other delegations. Let us see how your badger performs against actual biological threats." "Absolutely not," Diana said, stepping between them. "That violates every protocol in the exhibition guidelines. Live combat is prohibited during assessment phases. I am aware of the standard protocols. I am also aware that I have the authority to authorize exceptions in cases where an entry's capabilities remain unclear. Lassa gestured at the screens, showing footage of Brutus destroying the drones. This creature has exhibited unusual behavior. For the safety of all species involved in future exhibitions, we need to understand its true threat level. You mean you are embarrassed? Raymond said flatly. You called Earth's entry worthless in front of thousands of witnesses. Now you want to save face by proving Brutus is just lucky. I want accurate data. Is that not what you want as well, Dr. Cole? As a scientist? Trev, the medical officer, made an agitated sound. Coordinator, I must advise against this course of action. Live combat scenarios carry significant risk. My medical teams are not prepared for potential casualties. Then prepare them. Instructor Oren, what specimens do we have available? Oren's hands moved reluctantly across his controls. The Harani phase predator is still in holding. The Drell pack has been transported back to their ship. The Torgal siege beast requires a specialized arena configuration we cannot deploy quickly. The Harani predator will be sufficient. Lassa pulled up its assessment scores. It ranked first in stealth capability and prey acquisition. It masses approximately 30 kilograms, twice the size of the Badger. This seems fair. Fair? Raymond's voice rose. That creature can teleport. It has been bred specifically for combat. This is not assessment. This is you trying to get Brutus killed to protect your reputation. If your creature is truly as capable as you claim, he will survive. If not, then he never deserved to be here in the first place. Lassa began entering authorization codes. The exhibition is being broadcast to 47 worlds. Millions are watching. They deserve to see the truth about Earth's submission. Diana grabbed her communication device. I am contacting Earth's diplomatic mission. This is abuse of authority. By all means, contact them. The assessment will be completed long before they arrive. Lassa turned to Oren. Deploy the Harani Predator. Light combat scenario. First one to disengage loses. Oren looked at Raymond with genuine regret in his large eyes. Dr. Cole, I will do everything I can to ensure your creature's safety. I can deploy emergency intervention drones. They can separate the combatants if the situation becomes critical. How will you know it is critical? Raymond asked bitterly. Brutus will not run. He will not surrender. He will fight until he wins or until he cannot fight anymore. Then perhaps you should reconsider your entry, Lassa said coldly. Withdraw now and we will classify this as an incomplete assessment. Earth can return next cycle with a more appropriate specimen. Raymond looked down at the arena where Brutus was now trying to climb the smooth wall, determined to find a way out through sheer persistence. The honey badger represented everything about Earth that the galaxy did not understand yet. Giving up now would be admitting that Earth's creatures were weak. It would be lying about what his world had created through millions of years of brutal natural selection. No withdrawal, he said. If you are going to do this illegal thing, then do it. But know that I am recording everything, and Earth's government will hear about this abuse of power. I welcome their inquiry. Lassa completed her authorization. Instructor Oren, proceed. In the observation decks, the crowd had sensed something unusual was happening. The normal flow of an exhibition had been disrupted. Delegation leaders were arguing with staff, demanding explanations. Several human observers were recording everything, their faces showing anger and fear. A second panel opened in the arena ceiling. The Harani delegation had been watching from their private box, and now their representatives were shouting protests that went ignored. Their phase predator was a prized specimen, bred from a long line of champions. Using it in an unauthorized combat scenario was a diplomatic insult. But Lassa's authority as exhibition coordinator was absolute within the arena, and she was using that power without restraint. The Harani predator descended on a platform, its sleek body designed for ambush hunting. It was lean and muscular, covered in dark scales that seemed to absorb light. Its eyes were multifaceted like an insect's, giving it nearly 360-degree vision. Most terrifying were its claws, long and curved, capable of gutting prey with a single strike. This creature had killed 2 handlers during its initial capture, and it had scored perfectly on every hunting assessment. Brutus noticed the new arrival immediately. He stopped his wall-climbing attempts and turned to face the platform. His body language shifted, becoming lower and more compact. His fur bristled slightly, making him look larger. That chittering sound came again, but this time it carried a different tone. This was not curiosity or annoyance. This was a challenge. Release in 30 seconds, Oren announced, his voice heavy with reluctance. Medical teams to standby positions. Emergency intervention drones ready. May the ancients forgive us all. Raymond pressed his hand against the observation window. Brutus, I am sorry. I should have withdrawn. I should have protected you. He would not want you to, Diana said quietly. Look at him, Ray. He is not scared. He is ready. She was right. Brutus stood in the center of the arena, watching the phase predator with absolute focus. There was no fear in his posture, no hesitation. He had evolved in a land where everything was trying to kill him, where every meal had to be fought for, where survival meant never backing down from anything. The Harani predator was just another obstacle between him and whatever he wanted to do next. The platform descended to arena floor level. The containment field disengaged. The Harani predator stepped out, its movements fluid and silent. It was a professional killer, bred and trained for this exact purpose. It assessed Brutus with cold calculation, identifying the smaller creature as prey. It made its first mistake right there. Combat scenario active, Oren said. First to disengage or show submission ends the assessment. The Harani predator began circling, using its natural camouflage to fade partially from view. This was its signature technique, the ability to phase slightly out of normal space, making it nearly invisible and untouchable. It had used this ability to dominate every assessment, to rack up perfect hunting scores. Brutus tracked its movement somehow, his head turning to follow something the observers could barely see. His eyes never lost sight of his opponent. The predator attacked from behind, phasing fully into reality just as its claws descended toward Brutus's spine. It was a killing strike, perfectly executed. Brutus was not there. He had moved the instant before contact, spinning to face his attacker with a speed that seemed impossible for his stocky build. The predator's claws hit the arena floor, leaving deep gouges in the supposedly scratch-resistant surface. Then Brutus counterattacked and the arena exploded into violence. Blood spattered across the arena floor, dark and shimmering in the artificial sunlight. The Harani predator limped backward, one of its legs dragging, its perfect hunter's grace shattered by an opponent that refused to die according to plan. Brutus advanced steadily, his fur matted with blood from a dozen wounds that should have stopped him but somehow had not. The observation decks were in chaos. Beings shouted in languages that translation software struggled to process. The Harani delegation was demanding immediate cessation of combat. Medical teams were arguing over intervention protocols. Through it all, Coordinator Lassa stood silent, watching her carefully constructed humiliation of Earth backfire in the most spectacular way possible. Instructor Oren's forearms moved frantically between controls. I am reading critical stress in the Harani predator's physiology. It is approaching submission threshold. That is impossible, Lassa said, but her voice lacked conviction. The predator masses twice as much. It has superior weapons. It has combat training. It also has a survival instinct, Raymond said, his eyes never leaving the arena, something Brutus does not have. The fight had started with the predator's ambush failing. What happened next had clearly shocked the creature. It expected prey that ran or prey that fought defensively. Instead, Brutus had gone immediately on the attack, targeting the predator's legs with brutal efficiency. When the predator phased out of normal space to escape, Brutus simply waited, tracking it somehow through whatever senses honey badgers use to hunt underground prey. When the predator phased back in for another strike, Brutus was ready. His teeth found purchase on the predator's foreleg, and his jaw locked down with 400 psi of pressure. The predator's scales, which could deflect energy weapons, cracked under biological force they had never evolved to resist. The predator tried every technique in its arsenal. It slashed with its claws, opening wounds across Brutus's shoulders and flanks. The honey badger's thick skin and fat deposits absorbed impacts that should have been crippling. It tried to shake Brutus off, slamming him against the arena floor repeatedly. Brutus held on, his grip unbreakable. Most devastating was when the predator phased partially out of reality, a defensive technique that made its body intangible. Brutus fell through it and hit the ground hard. Any normal predator would have been disoriented, confused by prey that could become untouchable. Brutus rolled to his feet, shook himself once, and immediately resumed his attack the moment the predator became solid again. He is learning its patterns, Trev observed, his medical scans forgotten as he watched in fascination. The badger is adapting to the phase shifting. Each time it happens, he anticipates the reappearance location more accurately. Honey badgers are intelligent, Diana said. She was recording everything, her hands shaking slightly. They solve problems. They use tools. They remember. The predator made a sound the observers had never heard before. It was high-pitched and desperate, a cry for help that went unanswered because there was no help to give. It tried to retreat, backing toward the arena wall. But Brutus gave it no space, no time to recover. He pressed the attack with relentless determination, targeting the injured leg over and over until the predator could no longer support its own weight. In the Harani delegation box, the species representatives were screaming at Lassa. Their translator software was overwhelmed, but the meaning was clear. Stop this immediately or face diplomatic consequences, coordinator, Oren said urgently. The Harani predator is showing submission behaviors. It is trying to disengage. Per your own rules, this ends the combat. But Brutus had not received the message. He had an opponent in front of him, and that opponent was still moving, still potentially dangerous. His evolutionary programming had one simple directive. Threats must be eliminated completely. The predator made a final desperate attempt to escape, gathering its strength for one massive phase jump that would take it to the far side of the arena. It vanished completely, and for a moment the arena was still. Then it reappeared near the opposite wall, as far from Brutus as the space allowed. It collapsed immediately, unable to stand. The phase jump had drained its remaining energy. It lay on its side, making soft sounds of distress, all aggression gone. This was submission. This was defeat. Brutus began walking toward it. "Stop him," Lassa shouted. "Oren, deploy intervention drones now." 3 emergency drones descended, positioning themselves between Brutus and the fallen predator. They generated an energy barrier, a wall of force that no creature should be able to cross. Brutus walked directly into it, was pushed back by invisible pressure, and immediately tried again from a different angle. "Dr. Cole, you must call off your creature," Oren pleaded. "If he breaches that barrier, he could kill the Harani predator. That would create an interstellar incident." Raymond grabbed a communication device connected to the arena's speaker system. Brutus, stop!" The honey badger paused at the sound of Raymond's voice. He looked up toward the observation booth, his small eyes finding his handler somehow among the thousands of faces. Raymond saw blood, wounds, and absolute exhaustion, but he also saw something else. Brutus was waiting for instructions. "Come here, buddy. Come to me, it is over." For a long moment, Brutus did not move. He looked back at the fallen predator, then up at Raymond again. His body language suggested he very much wanted to finish what he had started. But Raymond's voice held authority, the voice of the human who fed him, who transported him, who had been there through the entire journey to this place. Brutus turned away from the predator and began walking toward the observation booth. He moved slowly, his injuries finally catching up with him. By the time he reached the wall below the booth, his legs were shaking. "Medical teams, extract both creatures immediately," Oren commanded. "And someone get me the exhibition charter regulations. I need to document every violation that occurred here." Lassa left the booth without a word, her crystalline form rigid with humiliation. As she departed, Raymond heard her say something to an aide about reviewing her position. Good. She had earned whatever consequences came. Medical teams in protective suits entered the arena. They approached the Harani predator first, loading it onto a specialized stretcher. The creature would survive, but its reputation as an unstoppable hunter was finished. Defeated by something a third its size, the galaxy would not forget that. Approaching Brutus proved more difficult. He growled at the first medical team that came near, forcing them to back away. Finally, Raymond went down himself, entering the arena against protocols and safety regulations.
He did not care anymore.
Brutus needed him. "Hey, buddy, let us get you fixed up, okay?" Brutus allowed Raymond to pick him up, though his weight was awkward and his body was slick with blood. Raymond carried him toward the medical exit, ignoring the stares from every direction. Diana met them at the door with a blanket, wrapping it around the honey badger gently. Trev and his medical team were waiting in a sterile treatment room. They had prepared for human biology, having researched Earth's physiology after Raymond's arrival. Now they worked quickly, cleaning wounds, applying synthetic skin grafts, administering antibiotics that might work on Earth-based organisms. "These injuries are serious," Trev said as he worked. "Deep lacerations, tissue damage, possible internal bleeding. Any normal creature this size would be in shock. His vital signs are stable. His body is already beginning to heal itself." "Honey badgers recover fast," Raymond said. He held Brutus's head gently, speaking softly while the medical team worked. They have to. In the wild, an injured honey badger cannot afford to be weak for long. Diana paced the room, still recording on her device. Ray, the communication networks are exploding. Every major news service in the galaxy is covering this. Earth's embassy is being contacted for statements. The Hurani government is filing formal complaints. This is huge. All I wanted was to show that Earth deserves respect, Raymond said tiredly. Instead, we started an interstellar incident. No, Diana corrected. Lassa started an interstellar incident. You just brought a honey badger to an exhibition. Everything else was her choice. Oren entered the medical bay, his expression weary. Dr. Cole, there will be an official inquiry. Multiple delegations are calling for a review of exhibition protocols. The Hurani are demanding compensation for endangering their predator. But there is something you should know. What? The vote is already happening. Delegation leaders are polling their home governments. The question is simple. Should Earth's biosphere be reclassified as a high-threat environment? Raymond looked up sharply. Based on one honey badger? Based on what that one honey badger represents. If Earth produces creatures like this and considers them pests, what else is your planet hiding? Oren paused. Dr. Cole, you may have accomplished something no human diplomatic mission has managed. You have made the entire galaxy afraid of Earth. On the medical table, Brutus made a soft, chittering sound. Already fighting the sedatives Trev had administered, even in his injured and exhausted state, he was still trying to stay alert, still refusing to show weakness. Raymond stroked his head gently. Rest, Brutus. You did good. You showed them what Earth is made of. 3 months had passed since the exhibition, and Raymond stood in a lecture hall on Earth, watching xenobiologists from 7 different worlds study a simple video clip of a crow, using a stick to extract food from a puzzle box. Their reaction was equal parts fascination and horror. This is a common behavior? Asked a Fenner researcher, her tentacles curling with agitation. This level of problem-solving in a creature you classify as avian? Crows are highly intelligent, Raymond explained. They recognize faces, hold grudges, use tools, and teach their young. Some researchers believe they are among the smartest animals on Earth. And you allow them to live freely in your cities? We do not really have a choice. They go where they want. The Fenner made a notation on her datapad, her expression suggesting she was reconsidering her whole understanding of Earth's ecosystem. She was one of dozens of researchers who had come to Earth after Brutus's performance became the most watched event in galactic broadcasting history. The exhibition incident had sparked something unprecedented, a complete reevaluation of Earth's threat classification. What started as a single honey badger fighting in an arena had become a galaxy-wide conversation about what humanity's homeworld truly represented. Diana entered the lecture hall and waved to Raymond. You have another meeting in 20 minutes. The Galactic Life Threat Assessment Bureau wants to discuss the raccoon footage. Raymond sighed. Did they watch the part where the raccoon opened a locked cooler? That is exactly what they want to discuss. Apparently, their security experts are very concerned about Earth animals that can defeat locking mechanisms. As they walked through the research facility, Raymond saw evidence of the massive shift in perspective everywhere. Teams were studying squirrels, rats, and pigeons with the kind of intensity usually reserved for dangerous predators. One lab was running tests on geese, trying to understand how herbivores could be so aggressively territorial. Another group was analyzing hippo behavior, having learned that this herbivore killed more humans per year than most carnivores. How is Brutus doing? Diana asked. He is retired to a specialized habitat we built for him. It has everything a honey badger could want, and he has already escaped twice. Raymond smiled. They keep improving the containment, and he keeps finding new ways out. It has become a challenge for our engineering department. I heard he has a social media following now. 17 million subscribers across 4 platforms. People send him gifts. There is a documentary crew following him 3 days a week. Raymond shook his head in amazement. A honey badger from the Kalahari has become Earth's most famous animal. They reached the conference room where Instructor Oren was waiting, along with Trev and several other officials from the Galactic Life Threat Assessment Bureau. The organization had been created specifically in response to the exhibition incident, charged with studying and categorizing Earth's biosphere. Oren greeted Raymond with genuine warmth now, his earlier dismissiveness completely gone. Dr. Cole, thank you for meeting with us. We have completed our preliminary assessment of Earth's fauna. And your planet is terrifying. Oren pulled up a holographic display showing hundreds of species. We began with the assumption that the honey badger was an exceptional case. Instead, we discovered that exceptional aggression and resilience is the standard for Earth life. Your apex predators are nightmares, yes, but your prey species, your scavengers, even your domesticated animals display survival traits that would qualify them as dangerous on most worlds. Trev added his own observations. We studied your medical records. Humans are injured by wildlife regularly, yet you continue to coexist with these creatures. Bee stings, snake bites, animal attacks, disease transmission. Any rational species would have sterilized their environment of such threats. Instead, you protect them. You create reserves for them. You make it illegal to harm them. We call it conservation, Raymond said. We call it madness, Trev replied, but not unkindly. Dr. Cole, we need to understand the evolutionary pressures that created this. Your planet has high gravity, high oxygen content, extreme weather variations, and aggressive fauna. How did intelligence evolve under such conditions? Raymond considered the question carefully. I think it is because Earth does not allow weakness. Everything that survives here does so by being tough, smart, or adaptable. Usually all three. Humans are not the strongest creatures on our planet. We are not the fastest or the most armored. But we learn to work together, to use tools, to think our way around problems we could not fight through directly. And the honey badger? The honey badger represents a different evolutionary strategy. Instead of thinking around problems, Brutus's ancestors decided to simply outlast everything. Be too tough to kill, too aggressive to discourage, and too stubborn to quit. It worked well enough that honey badgers survived millions of years alongside creatures that should have eaten them. Oren pulled up footage from the exhibition, the moment when Brutus refused to back down from the Hurani predator, despite being outmatched in every measurable category. This moment changed everything. We had assumed that survival meant avoiding danger. Your species taught us that sometimes survival means confronting danger directly and refusing to lose. A young researcher from the Holosi delegation spoke up nervously. Dr. Cole, we have a question that our government wants answered. If the honey badger is not even in your top 100 dangerous species, what is number one? Raymond smiled. That depends on your criteria. For raw killing power, the saltwater crocodile or great white shark. For intelligence and adaptability, the common rat or the crow. For disease transmission, the mosquito has killed more humans than every other animal combined. For unpredictable aggression, the hippopotamus. And where do humans rank? Humans are the apex predator on Earth. We are the only species that can thrive in every environment on the planet. We are the only ones who learn to control fire, create tools, and alter our surroundings to suit us instead of adapting to them. But here is the important part. Raymond gestured at the footage still playing on the screen. We evolved alongside everything Brutus evolved to fight. Lions, snakes, hostile environments, disease, predators, and prey. We survived the same pressures that made the honey badger indestructible. The difference is we did it by becoming smarter instead of tougher. The room fell silent as the implications settled over the gathered researchers. They had spent 3 months studying Earth's wildlife and had been consistently horrified by what they found. Now they were realizing that humanity had not just survived in this environment, but had dominated it through intelligence alone. Diana pulled up another display. The survey results came back from the galactic community. 73% of civilizations have reclassified Earth as a high-threat biosphere. Trade regulations are being updated. Tourism requires special permits now. Some species are requesting that humans undergo behavioral assessment before being allowed on their worlds. That seems excessive, Raymond protested. Is it? Oren asked. Dr. Cole, your people keep dangerous predators as companions in your homes. You feed them, pet them, allow them near your children, creatures that could kill you while you sleep. You call them cats and dogs and treat this as normal. Domestication is not unique to Earth. The degree is. We studied your domestication history. You took wolves, apex predators that hunted in packs and bred them into hundreds of varieties over thousands of years. Some are small enough to fit in a pocket. Others are large enough to knock down an adult human. And you keep both as pets, trusting them completely. Trev's multiple eyes showed genuine confusion. This suggests either remarkable courage or a fundamental inability to recognize danger. Maybe both, Diana said with a grin. Raymond walked to the window overlooking the research facility grounds. Outside, he could see normal Earth wildlife going about its day. Squirrels chased each other through trees. Birds fought over feeders. A fox trotted across the lawn, unbothered by the nearby humans. This was so mundane to him that he rarely thought about it. But to species from gentler worlds, this casual coexistence with creatures that could bite, scratch, or carry disease was incomprehensible. "What happens now?" he asked. Oren joined him at the window. "Your government is already receiving requests for Earth species to be studied, cataloged, and in some cases, restricted from export. Several worlds have banned the importation of Earth insects after learning about your hornets and bullet ants. The Fenner specifically requested that no Earth mammals be brought to their system without extensive quarantine protocols. All because of one honey badger in an arena. No, all because that one honey badger forced us to look deeper, to question our assumptions about what makes a species dangerous. We learned that size does not equal threat level, that obvious weapons are not the only tools of survival, that the most dangerous creatures are often the ones that refuse to accept defeat." Raymond thought about Brutus, probably napping in his habitat right now. Completely unaware that he had changed galactic policy, the honey badger had not tried to be impressive. He had not performed for the cameras or attempted to win approval. He had simply been what evolution made him, relentless, resilient, and utterly unwilling to quit. "There is something my people say," Raymond told the gathered researchers. "Never corner something meaner than you. Brutus is not meaner because he is cruel. He is meaner because he does not understand surrender. Earth did not teach him to be afraid. It taught him to be unstoppable." Trev made a thoughtful sound. "And humans? What did Earth teach your species?" Raymond turned back to face them. "That intelligence and cooperation can overcome any physical limitation. That tools and planning can defeat creatures stronger and faster than we are. That survival does not require being the toughest or the most aggressive. It just requires refusing to give up." "Like the honey badger," Oren said. "Exactly like the honey badger. We learned from the same environment. We just took different lessons from it." The meeting continued for another hour, discussing protocols and classification systems. But Raymond's mind kept returning to that moment in the arena when Brutus stood on the wrecked combat drone, making his defiant, chittering sound. That single image had become iconic across the galaxy, a symbol of Earth's refusal to be underestimated. Later, Raymond visited Brutus in his habitat. The honey badger was awake, investigating a new enrichment toy the engineers had installed. Within 5 minutes, Brutus had figured out how to dismantle it and was using the parts to try to dig under the habitat wall. "Still escaping, I see," Raymond said, smiling. "You know you are famous now? Millions of beings across the galaxy know your name." Brutus looked up briefly, acknowledged Raymond with a snort, and went back to his digging project. Fame meant nothing to him. Approval meant nothing. He had a wall to get under, and no amount of galactic attention was going to distract him from that goal. Raymond watched him work and felt proud. Not because Brutus had won a fight or survived injuries that should have been fatal. He was proud because the honey badger represented something essential about Earth itself. The simple, stubborn refusal to accept limitations. The galaxy had called Brutus a useless pest. He had proven them wrong, not by being something he was not, but by being exactly what Earth had made him. And in doing so, he had forced the entire galactic community to reconsider their understanding of what made a world dangerous. "Good work, Brutus," Raymond said quietly. "You taught them what Earth is about." The honey badger continued digging, unmoved by the praise, focused entirely on his next escape attempt. Some things never changed, and Raymond was glad for it.